Come with me on a tour of an English spinning mill. Hi, my name's Sophie and welcome to Sophie Knits Daily. Today I have a super exciting video and something that's completely new to me. John Arbon is a textile company based in the UK that produce different yarns and wool tops in their UK-based spinning mill, and each year they host an open mill weekend where you're able to join a tour of the mill where they provide you information about how the wool is spun and processed, and I was lucky enough to be able to join the open mill weekend this year. They also, as part of this open weekend, host a pop-up shop of different yarns that they offer, as well as bringing on some guest vendors and hosting workshops and talks. So I'll take you along. The mill is based in South Molton, which is just at the bottom of Exmoor National Park in England. I am currently staying in Somerset, so I was lucky enough to be able to drive straight through Exmoor National Park on my journey to the mill. Exmoor National Park is so beautiful. There's rolling hills for miles, views of the sea, there's lots of different farm animals and Exmoor wild ponies. And it's everything you imagine the British countryside to be, including the single track 60-mile-an-hour roads. The event was being hosted in the assembly rooms above the town hall in South Molton, and I'd never been to this town before, so I didn't know what to expect, and I feel so lucky that I got tickets for the Saturday because below the assembly rooms is a huge market in South Molton, which was just in full swing the moment we arrived. So before going into the assembly rooms and looking at the shop, I had a wander around the market, and there were so many different interesting market stalls there that I could have just spent the whole day there. I managed to get some really nice Indian street food, and then I headed upstairs to the pop-up shop. The pop-up shop was so much more than the pop-up shop that I expected and was advertised. Having been to a yarn festival before, it felt exactly like a yarn festival. There was all of John Arbon's yarns, there was guest vendors there with their own stalls selling different little crafty bits or notions, and there was talks and workshops going on in rooms adjacent. John Arbon had all of their different yarns on displayed in all of their beautiful bases. One of John Arbon's specialities is the Knit by Numbers range, which is a range of merino yarn in over 100 different shades. And it was so amazing to be able to see this range in person and just appreciate how many different colours they're able to produce by blending different colours of yarn. On the mill tour, the guy who was giving us the information about the different machinery said that they paint with yarn, which I think is a really beautiful way of describing the different colours and kind of the intricacies of how they produce the different colours of yarn. The display of the wool tops was also genius. It was really amazing to see the wool tops in barrels. It looked like it had come straight from the mill, and they were pulling the wool tops out of the barrels so you were able to get exactly the weight of wool that you wanted. And it was displayed in such a way that you were really easily able to see the different colours of wool top and the different blends of colours, so you could see kind of how the colour would work up, I suppose. I was lucky enough to get the last 2 tickets to a sold-out talk from 4 different knitwear and crochet designers, giving their kind of information and story on the deep dive into knitwear design. There was Sophie Hemmings of the Knit Pearl Girl, Laura Penrose, Anna from Along Avec Anna, and Faye, who is a crochet designer, giving us all sorts of different information about the inspiration of knitwear design, the actual kind of production of producing a pattern, marketing. So yeah, it was just really inspiring and interesting to hear about their process and made me feel a bit more confident about kind of playing around with different patterns, putting my own spin on things and maybe producing my own patterns in the future. From here, I headed back outside and joined the minibus that took us to the mill. I was on a small tour with a few different people, and we were guided round the mill by a few members of staff there who talked us through how each piece of equipment is used and how the yarn and wool tops are produced. All of the staff were super knowledgeable and passionate and were able to answer any and all questions that we had. So the mill is a small-scale worsted spinning mill that operates vintage machinery to process wool. I've always loved yarn and everything about yarn, but being guided through how wool is processed and how that skein of yarn is produced made me appreciate yarn even more. The fleece is first bought and processed locally before it's taken in by the mill. The fibre is then fed into one of the many gill boxes where the fibre is straightened and aligned. The fibre is then combed to remove any short fibres and is then reprocessed by the gill boxes. Each time the fibre is being drawn out more and more to make it more even and drapey. The wool top is then spun on one of the spinning machines and coned on one of the many coning machines. The singles are then plied to produce a 2 or 4 ply yarn, and then another machine skeins the yarn. There's even a machine that skeins mini skeins of yarn and a machine that creates colour cards. I highly recommend joining the mill tour if you ever get a chance. Learning how the yarn is processed is really special and super interesting, particularly if you're into spinning. Some of my highlights of the mill tour is that initially when I got to the mill, I thought this place looks pretty small, and I was quite surprised with the amount of John Arbon yarn that I see in shops and was in the pop-up shop. I thought, how on earth can they process all of this yarn in this small mill? But the further you're taken around the mill by the staff there, the more you appreciate how much of a TARDIS it is. There's so many different machines that they use to process the yarn, and it's just an incredible place. Another thing I loved is that all of the machines are named, and they say this is because all of the machines have their own quirks and personality, and this is probably because they're vintage machines that have been restored. So all of the machines are really loved and taken care of. The top floor of the mill had different machines, but was also a storeroom for all of their stock and yarns, and it was really lovely to be able to see all the different colour names on their boxes. They had some particularly funny names, and I think that would be the best job, coming up with different colour names for yarns. We made our way back from the mill to the marketplace, where I had a bit more time to browse around the different yarns and made some final decisions on my purchases. I love the little project bag that my purchases came in. If I'd have made more of a purchase, I'd have got a tote bag, which I'd have absolutely loved, but I only picked up a few little bits and bobs. So firstly, I find it hard to avoid a sale bin wherever I go, and I was looking specifically for some mini skeins to put in my sweet shop blanket that I've been working on quite a lot recently. So I managed to pick up 6 different colours of mini skeins from their sale bin. But the other thing I love about getting different mini skeins, particularly from the sale bin, is that these are all different ranges that John Arbon carries and different fibre content. So it's a really good way to be able to try out different fibre content before I was to buy like a jumper quantity, for example. Kind of see how it feels in my hand, how it feels to work up and how soft it is, those sorts of things. So I got Viola DK in the colour cinnamon, Devonia DK, Knit by Numbers in the colour number 77, which is 100% merino 4-ply. Another Knit by Numbers colour in the number 15, again 100% merino 4-ply. And then these 2 skeins don't have a label, so I'm not sure about their content, but the colours were just so beautiful I couldn't leave them. I'm excited to see these work up in my Sweet Shop blanket by Laura Penrose, and I'll keep you updated on the progress on that on my knitting podcast. The next thing I bought was some wool top. This beautiful colour of wool top is the colour Pig Snout, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. And it's a beautiful blend of a really bright hot pink, yellow, blue and white. It's really super vibrant. It was actually my boyfriend that picked this out, and I'm really grateful that I was able to buy this in just a 50-gram amount. I've been enjoying using my drop spindle recently, but I don't want to buy too much wool top as I am still practicing and I'm not sure what I'm going to use my hand spun drop spindle yarn for. So I didn't want to buy too much wool top that it felt overwhelming to use on my drop spindle. I've got just the right amount to practice, but also a super beautiful bright colour that I'll be really interested to see how it spins up and how the colours work together. So I'm glad to film this video so I can actually start using this. And finally, a bit of a different purchase for me. I got a pack of 3 sheets of stickers. These stickers were so hard to pass up because the designs are just so beautiful and very much reflective of the mill tour. It looks exactly like the different John Arbon equipment and display, and I just love these stickers. I think they're so beautiful. I've been really enjoying putting stickers on my van recently of the different travels, and my boyfriend's already picked a sticker out of these that he wants to put on the van. I think I'm going to put a couple others on my water bottle, but I'm not sure what to do with the rest. Maybe put them in my like knitting journal, who knows, but there's lots of different beautiful stickers and lots to choose from. So that is all of my acquisitions. So my final reflections on the mill tour is that I had the best day. It was so much fun to be able to have a look around the mill and see how the equipment works. And as I said before, I got such an appreciation of how much processing and kind of love goes into creating different yarn and fibres. And what was described as a pop-up shop was so much more than a pop-up shop. It was a full-blown yarn festival. There was a cafe, there was spinning wheels that you could get involved with, and it was just so amazing to be able to see so many people in one room with such a love for yarn, fibres, knitting, crochet, fibre arts in general. I had some really nice interactions with people that were asking about this jumper that I'm wearing, and I went up and asked them about items that they were wearing that I absolutely loved. So it's just such a friendly, open and supportive environment to be in. The John Arbon team were also really friendly and put on such an amazing event. So as I said before, if you can join their Mill Open weekend, I think they host one every year, then I'd definitely recommend. They also host a virtual mill weekend if you're interested, and their virtual event is next month. So check out their Instagram or website if you're interested in that. I'm not affiliated with John Arbon in any way, but I just really enjoyed the event, so I recommend it to other people. And if you enjoyed this video, then consider giving it a like or subscribing to my channel, and I hope to see you again in my next video. Have a lovely day.